You probably know the feeling. You're doing completely fine financially, but the moment you open your banking app, you get that familiar low-grade stomach drop. Your thumb hovers over the screen, and for a split second, you brace yourself before looking at the balance. The reason this happens comes down to the default, unquestioned setup almost all of us use. We maintain a single checking account. Our paycheck lands in that pool of money, and every single outgoing transaction, from rent and utilities to groceries and random Tuesday night takeout, gets pulled from that exact same pool. The immediate result is confusion. When you look at that final balance, you have no way of knowing what the number actually represents. Are you looking at money you can spend freely on dinner tonight, or is a large chunk of that number secretly spoken for by an auto-pay subscription or a utility bill due in 3 days? When everything sits mixed together in one undifferentiated pile, you can never tell for sure. This traditional single account setup is a system designed to create a continuous state of psychological uncertainty. Here's the trick that fixed this. I split my money across multiple accounts, each one with a specific single job. A large balance on a screen is just raw data. It tells you a fact, but it gives you zero context on how to act. This animated diagram illustrates the problem. You start by looking at one big single number, but to figure out if you can afford a purchase, your brain has to fracture that number into a chaotic swarm of upcoming expenses. You are forced to perform exhausting mental math on the fly, constantly trying to subtract future bills from your current balance. Trying to run that background calculation accurately every single day is difficult. You will eventually make a mistake, which leads directly to either accidentally overspending on something you couldn't afford, or slipping into a state of unnecessary frugality because you incorrectly assumed you were broke. The anxiety you feel isn't necessarily caused by a lack of money. It is caused by a structural lack of context, a setup that makes it impossible to distinguish between your bills and your actual available cash. The solution requires abandoning that single blurry pool of money entirely. Instead, we break that system down into a strict 4-module architecture, where each account is assigned exactly one rigid job. This node-based flowchart shows how the redesign works. The first module is the bills account. When your main deposit hits, a specific amount splits off into this isolated container, an automated trapdoor for fixed obligations. Once money moves here, you mentally consider it gone. Module 2 is your spending account. Notice this second open container. This is the only account linked to your daily debit card, and it receives a strictly limited flow of currency designated for discretionary use: groceries, entertainment, and daily life. Module 3 is the short-term goals account. This pathway captures money earmarked for specific future purchases, like a new laptop or a planned vacation. Every dollar here has a name attached to it. Finally, Module 4 is the emergency fund. This pathway routes your safety net entirely off the main screen. You keep this at a separate bank, so it remains invisible during your daily check-ins, removing the temptation to tap into it. By isolating the funds this way, the system pre-sorts every dollar's purpose before you ever have a chance to spend it. The mental subtraction is finished before you even open the app. The reason this modular setup is effective comes down to cognitive science, specifically a concept called mental accounting. The human brain naturally wants to categorize money based on its intended purpose. A single pooled checking account actively fights your biology. It forces your brain into a state of manual cognitive overload every single time you swipe a card, because your mind is trying to categorize a chaotic mix of money that the bank insists on keeping in one pile. This split-screen comparison maps out the cognitive difference. On the left, an organic network struggles to manually organize a chaotic flow of inputs. On the right, physically separating the money into different accounts mirrors your internal mental categories. You are offloading the burden of calculation from your own brain to the bank's automated servers. The power of this multi-account architecture is biological. You stop fighting your own mental wiring and automate your daily workflow. Once you stop doing the mental math, you unlock a secondary effect. A low balance in your daily spending account is no longer a mystery. In the old single pool system, a low number was vague. A small balance might mean you genuinely overspent. Or it might just mean your rent payment hasn't cleared the system yet. You couldn't tell until it was too late. The modular system creates a clear signal. If your spending account is low, you are simply out of spending money for the week. Your rent, your bills, and your savings remain entirely untouched and safe in their isolated accounts. The system transforms a low bank balance from a source of confusion into a functional boundary that protects your core livelihood. This architecture changes what it means to feel rich. You gain the specific relief of knowing exactly what every number in your bank account represents. That shift from uncertainty to clarity is genuinely what creates that feeling of abundance. You can look at your spending account and know that every visible dollar is yours to enjoy guilt-free. You can start building this architecture right now. Open exactly one additional account today, dedicate it solely to your fixed bills, and set up an automatic transfer to fund it the day after your next paycheck. Force your accounts to do the math for you. When you strip away the cognitive noise, checking your balance stops being an anxious guessing game and starts being simple information.